Poker's legendary champions, next-generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and John Chai.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, Coach Brad Wilson. And today is Tuesday, which means it's a very tactical day indeed. I am joined by my co-host, John. How you doing, John?
Good. Probably can't even recognize me anymore. As the YouTube viewers can probably already tell, I'm a live reg now.
Yeah, I was wondering who this human being was that sat down for today's episode of Tactical Tuesday. You look totally different. It's a new you. I'm not going to say it's a better you. It feels probably like a worse you, but I don't know. I guess we'll see over time.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the live streets. And since you are now a live reg, looks like you brought some live hands to today's Tactical Tuesday because we're in the pokercoaching.com easy hand replayer skin here.
Best replayer in the market.
Best replayer on the market. I think it might be the only replayer on the market that I'm aware of too. So, just monopoly going on. Tell me about these live hands. Where are you playing?
So I'm playing in Vegas. This hand is a 10-20 hand that actually happened last night. And then, both hands are going to be at like 10-20 or 5-10-20, I think. And pretty. The second hand is more for entertainment value. This one, I definitely have some real strategy questions to ask about. Nice.
How do you find the live streets these days as compared to online?
It's just I almost think that live poker is like the difference between live poker and online poker is similar to like the gap in the difference between like cash and tournaments, where it's just like it's almost like a totally different environment. And like you're like, you're 100 plus BBs deep. Like a lot of those things don't change. The things that do change from cash to tournaments, but still, like you're playing multi-way pots almost every hand. It feels like you're also like you're very frequently like 600 big blinds deep and not like the 100 to 200 that you usually find yourself in online.
Yeah.
So just tons of new fun situations to navigate.
And various stack sizes, right? Because of all the straddling. Like sometimes you got 600 big blinds, sometimes you have 3, sometimes you have 400, sometimes you have 2.
And you're like playing next to someone. Sometimes you're like, does this guy know that like he has half the big blinds that he had last hand because there's a straddle on, or does he just not care? And $300 is $300 to this guy.
Yeah, it's a land where just being able to think on your feet, being able to problem solve in real time is going to be exceptionally valuable as a live poker player.
It's way more fun. I'll add that too, for like one of the good things about live poker, or definite benefits of playing live poker versus online, is just getting to talk to people in between hands, after hands, whatever, is just something you don't get when you're sitting in your room at your computer by yourself all day.
That is true, unless you want to talk to yourself, in which case
I've made so many random sports bets in the last 2 days. Just like, hey, this random college football game that's on. Do you want to put $50 on who scores first? I don't know. I don't even know who has the ball or who's who's home. So I don't know. Just literally little interactions like that make the day much more enjoyable than just clicking buttons.
I don't know that it's the interaction so much as your degenerate side coming out, where you can just randomly place some bets that you have no earthly idea as to whether
you learn so much about gambling when you gamble with like old people who have been around. I'm just like, wow, I didn't even think about betting on that, but that's a great idea. Like this guy. So, this is totally a tangent, but the guy that I was making the sports bet with, we bet on like the first team to score. A team lined up to kick a field goal. And he's just like, do you think it's going to be left of center or right or center? $50. Just totally, I don't know, things that I've never even imagined gambling on. But
yeah, do you think there's an average, left or right of center?
He kicked it left of center first, and they iced the kicker.
Yeah.
and then he kicked it just straight down the middle, so we chopped.
I would think that like a right-footed kicker is probably going to
He was left-footed.
curve. He was left-footed?
Yeah.
The southpaw kicker?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I was going to think a right-footed kicker probably will curve to the left,
Yeah.
and I guess a left-footed would curve to the right would be my assumption. Like,
He curved it to the left the first time. I thought I was collected, but then they iced him. It's like one of the biggest bad beats I suffered yesterday, I think.
wow. Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not going to invest time into even thinking about this, even though I really want to. I want data on this. I want to know the answer to this thing that will provide no value
Is this a poker podcast, by the way?
for the rest of my life. We're transitioning slowly into a sports betting podcast, I think, which I think is your dream, actually. Just sports bet coaching for profits. That's going to be the next CPG venture. Let's move on to the hand.
All right.
In question. You have an ace and a queen of clubs. Looks like you're 5K deep, and primary villain's going to be the cutoff.
Yep.
Who opens to 60. You're playing 10-20. Fold. You're in the big blind. I assume that you're going to be 3-betting ace queen of clubs here.
Yeah.
And
So
you
just,
do.
I guess, a little bit of context before we get too deep into the hand. The cutoff is a European pro reg. I'm actually not in the big blind technically in this hand. I just bought the button.
Mhm.
Don't think it has any material effect on the rest of this hand, but just for the full context, this was a cutoff open. There was one big blind. That was me, and unfortunately we can't show that in the replayer. But I 3-bet. He calls.
Okay. So there's 490 in the pot. You flop nothing. The flop is king 5 deuce rainbow, and you start out with a looks to be quarter or third C bet.
Yep.
And villain calls. Any thought to checking the flop or just always C betting here? What's the simplifying
likely
to
doing a
range
lot of
bet?
C betting. Yeah, likely doing a lot of C betting with this hand. Probably planning on doing a bunch of double barreling and tripling based on the run out. I think this hand is definitely has like some nice like bluff catcher properties. Like it's not no pair, which is generally, I don't know, where you can start thinking about turning your hand into a bluff catcher instead of bluffing with it. Nice bluffing properties though is that it blocks like a lot of the stronger, the easier call downs that the cutoff can find, blocking hands like ace king and king queen. Think we can
But
definitely get
ace
better
king
hands.
almost certainly 4-bets pre.
See, that's like another thing that I don't know happens when you're
Yeah.
like 200 big blinds deep. Does he 4-bet ace king off pre in position?
I would think, right? Like, okay, so it's live poker. They are a reg, and it's like cutoff versus a single blind.
Yeah.
You know, because you bought the button.
Mhm.
I mean, the formation has to be such that like ace king gets 4-bet very frequently, right? I mean, maybe
Look,
not.
If I
don't
saw
know.
that he didn't 4-bet ace king here, I wouldn't even bat it. I just okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't
I would think
4-bet
like hijack or low jack, you know, in earlier positions makes more sense to flat, but cutoff, come on, like, yeah, you gotta, right? Like, you're basically never 4-betting if you don't 4-bet ace king.
That's like deeper you get though. Like a lot of your pre-flop strategy in position ends up looking like that though.
Yeah. All right. Turns an ace.
Mm.
So you make top pair, ace king 5 deuce, 2 spades now. The king and the 5 are the non-spade cards, so villain could have, you know, pair plus backdoor flush draw. I think those are reasonable hands for them to have. There's 8-10 in the pot. You got 4,600 behind. So betting or checking here?
That was what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really tough, you know? I think it's really a tough situation. I would probably just bet a third, though.
Yeah, nice. That's what we did.
Yeah, I think, like, you just want to bet on this card, and I think that, like, villain's not going to be raising a ton on this board because, you know, we have aces and kings in our range, so even if they have a set of fives, set of deuces, they're probably not raising. I think you can just comfortably fold to a raise too if they did in fact raise the
I
turn.
would never
with ace
expect to
queen.
get raised on the turn. I would be
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but
flabbergasted if. Yeah.
yeah, it would be
I have
very
a-
very confusing.
I have a
right?
confession to make before we go deeper. I made a typo. It's the 5 of hearts. I don't know if that doesn't make a big difference like so far in the hand, but there is a flush draw on the flop.
Okay, well, way to ruin everything, John. Why'd you even have to? Why'd you even have to?
No. You'll see.
Why'd you even have to make the correction? Now the viewer's just like, oh no, it's a 5 of hearts. Have to really engineer everything in my head all over again.
It does not matter now, but
Yeah, okay. It does not matter now. So the board is ace, king, 5 deuce with the ace deuce of spades and the king 5 of hearts.
double
John
flush
bets
draw on the
2.
turn. Yep.
Yeah, double flush draw board. John bets a third and the villain calls. And the river is the 4 of hearts. So it completes the front door flush draw and puts up a 4-liner. So
Okay, sorry.
yeah.
I mixed up the suits of the 5 and the 4. That's what I did.
Oh my god. So it doesn't complete a front door
5 of
flush.
hearts on the flop, 4 of diamonds on the river. My bad. I picked
Wow.
the 2 wrong
So
cards.
the flush doesn't complete on the river. So, oh boy. You didn't even have to mention it, John. Why'd you just threw a curveball in
No,
here
it does
for
matter.
no reason.
It does matter that there's a front door flush on the flop. Trust me. Well, you're about to see why it matters. I'm really sorry about the 2 typos, but
All right, so there is no flush available, but there is a 4 straight.
I
Ace,
needed to
deuce, 4,
defend my
5.
call on the river.
Yeah, you go ahead and check the river. And I guess that's, yeah, I imagine you don't have hardly any 3s in your range. Villain shouldn't have a ton of trays in the range. I guess ace tray suited would be
only
the
one.
major tray.
Mhm.
Maybe some kind of like 5 and tray 5 of spades, like some kind of hand like that.
Wow.
Pocket 3s maybe. I don't know.
So that's
like,
not
it's
like
really
pocket 3s and ace 3 were like the ones that I expect to see if I check. Well, we should just show that.
maybe 3-4, but 3-4 raises the turn because it's a straight.
Does
I would
3-4 raise the turn? I don't know.
I would assume at this SPR. Maybe they don't though. Maybe they don't want to have a raising range.
Yeah, I would think that that's not surprising at
Yeah.
all. That like 3-4 would just flat saying like, yeah, it's just way too messy to.
Yeah, we're gonna give the guy credit for not having a raising range here on the turn, but also not being able to 4-bet ace king cutoff versus a button bought 3-bet. That's
Well, that could both be the actions of a good player.
could be. Maybe.
Wow, jeez. Okay.
I would not like, even though I think the turn shouldn't be a raise, I would actually expect them to raise 3-4 on the turn personally. Just
Okay.
because I just think they can't help themselves with there being 1370 in the pot and 4320 behind, and you can have all the top 2s and all the sets and like, yeah, I just couldn't imagine them not raising the turn. But I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, okay.
We'll never know.
So 3-4. Well, that's like kind of a loose peel pre-flop.
Yeah.
Like
Have
a lot
you
of
played
like
live
the weird
poker
3x.
before? You know they
I know,
don't fold
I
a lot
know.
to 3-bets, right?
I know. I was not giving them credit for like hands like 3-4 or 5-3 or 3x that wasn't pocket 3s or ace 3.
Yeah, maybe king 3. King 3 suited makes
Like I wasn't like
a lot of
I was like,
sense.
dude, I just don't see like maybe this is the difference between online and live and I need to recalibrate, but like I would be shocked to see like someone online peel king 3 versus a 3-bet.
Yeah. Well, here we are. You checked. Villain overbets river 15-20. Ace king 5 for deuce. Final board. John has ace queen. So overbet on 4-liner.
Yeah. They definitely have natural bluffs because the front door flush draw breaks, even though I messed that up in the graphic. That's why I thought it was important, was that like I just wanted to let the viewers and you know that I wasn't just thinking about calling it off in a spot where they have 0 natural bluffs that I can see.
Yeah. I think like, man, I think it's somewhat difficult for villain to pull the trigger though, with Queen Jack of Hearts or Jack 10 of Hearts or Queen 10 of Hearts on this board, like repping very thin, just repping a tray, right? Like those would be the bluffs that you're hoping to find. Would be the busted hearts, or maybe the busted backdoor spades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you probably don't need to find many of them in order to call.
Right, that's what I was thinking. But then like, so this is an overbet on the river. It was kind of a strange overbet where it was just like a teeny tiny bit over pot. There's 1370 in the pot. He bets 1520.
Yeah. One problem is that like they have sets still, probably.
Yeah. So that's the other thing I was gonna say was that like, yeah, we can find tons of bricked front door flush draws and backdoor flush draws. There isn't a lot of 3x, but he still definitely jams fives and deuces, and
fours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if they have trays, they probably have fours as well.
Right.
So like that's 9 extra combos to go with, you know, the trays and the ace trays and some, you know, random tray X.
So
I
there's
think
2 ace trays. There's 6 trays.
Yeah. That's 8 and then
Plus
17.
9, 17.
Yeah. We're going to need to find like 7 or 8
Which seems
bluff combos.
very possible.
Seems possible. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like they have to, not only they have to have the bluff combos, they have to bluff with them as well. And so like I don't think they're gonna. And then they have to bluff at this size with them on top of that. So like, it's a tough problem to solve, and it's quite a big parlay of like, yeah, they bet 1520 here. Do they just bet like 1100 or 1000 with like Jack 10 of Hearts? Do they feel the need to overbet?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that.
So can I tell you how this overbet actually happened? This is like an opportunity for a live read. The
Yeah.
1520 wasn't like he counted out 1520. He counted out all his $20. He took out all his $20 chips from his stack and just put them all in the pot. I know he knew like roughly how much it was because he's not like just whatever. But like that was the bet. He just left all his big chips, is like anything bigger than a $20 chip, and put every $20 chip he had in his stack into the pot.
That's very strange. Did you make anything of it?
I didn't know what to make of it, but I had to ask for a count because it was a bizarre number of chips, and that's how I know it was like a weirdly sized overbet, like a kind of pot, but
Yeah,
technically a
it's
little bit
kind
more.
of, it's almost like they're attempting some kind of reverse tell by using their lower denomination chips to make a bet and using all of their lower denomination chips.
Felt strong
know.
though, for some reason because it was like a lot of stacks of chips going in the middle, you know? Yeah.
How strong did it feel, John? Because did it feel strong enough that you should fold the river on the 4-liner, or did it feel strong enough that you should call the river on the 4-liner?
I couldn't draw the line. I didn't know where. One more stack probably would have folded.
Yeah, so that means you did not fold, right?
I did not fold.
Did not fold. And villain has a 3-5 of clubs.
Yeah, I was like, well, I guess they can have king 3 suited probably if.
Yeah, they probably have more trays
Yeah.
than you
Ever.
imagined.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to live players generally not folding to 3-bets, I don't think live players generally fold to 3-bets. I think it's a very small frequency. You don't wake up, put all your clothes on, take a shower, get ready to go to the casino, finally VPip a hand after, you know, what seems like infinity amount of hours, get 3-bet and be like, okay, I'm just going to fold and wait until my next opportunity to play a hand. I think they're in there. They're ready to, they got their clothes on. They're ready to go.
They're ready to
get in
open the
there.
5-3 and just.
Yeah, let's go. Open the 5-3, call the 3-bet. Let's make something happen, baby.
Like,
Boom.
not only was this not in my 3-bet peel range, but it wouldn't have even been in the cutoff RFI range in my
Open
brain.
range,
So
yeah.
I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Let's duplicate all of these $20 chips. Boom. Nice. These live fish, they can never fold a pair, even on a 4-liner. It's great. That's why you play the 5-3, baby.
Exactly
That's why
what
you
he
play the
thought.
5-3.
Yeah. I'm gonna make it straight, and this idiot's not gonna be able to fold one pair when I overbet.
Yeah, well, there you go. Good for that guy. He got up in the morning, did all the right things, beat the living hell out of you, and here we are discussing the hand on Tactical Tuesday. And stick around after the break. Apparently, this next hand is for the lulls. This was the the strategic hand. So let's see what the lulls are when we come back.
Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.
All right. Welcome back from the break. Ready to dive into the second hand for the lulls, as the kids say.
Yep.
Let's see some lulls.
There's definitely some
Mr.
strategy in
John.
this hand, but it'll probably make you laugh more than.
Okay. Well, you open.
No.
So everybody follows to you on the button.
Yep.
You're 2K deep. Looks like you're playing 10-20 live. You open a 60, and the big villain in the big blind calls their 2K deep as well. Anything you know about said villain?
He is a reg. Seems to be a pro. Yeah, not much more to add. I don't have any strong reads other than backpack hoodie seems to be playing well.
Yeah. Backpack, you said?
Yeah.
The backpack read? All right. Queen 10-9 is the flop. All hearts, which means you have quite a good hand. You have the nut flush, and I would imagine villains tend to 3-bet king jack of hearts here out of the big blind, but, you know, who knows in the live poker realm. So, anyway, quite a good scenario here for you.
Yep.
Especially at 100 bigs deep. You start out by betting small. I guess we'll start there with the small bet.
Yeah. It's just kind of my general strategy on on monotone boards is doing a lot of small c betting when I do c bet. Guessing what you're gonna suggest here is like exploitatively just having larger sizes with better hands.
I think it's not unreasonable. Like, I think that you could certainly start out with like half here, especially on this board where you don't block any pairs and you have the nuts. And I don't know that like 2-pair or straights are going to raise or should raise at any kind of frequency. So, yeah, I mean, I don't mind starting out with like half pot.
Yeah, just
but
capture a little bit more value from a lot of hands that are very strong but still don't raise, like those 2 pairs you just mentioned.
and
Like
inflexible, facing like 30 and 50. They just like don't care. You know,
straight
they have
probably doesn't even raise. Like,
yeah, king jack doesn't raise.
Right.
I think like queen jack is like doesn't care whether you bet 30% or 50%. So, yeah. Either way, you decide to bet a third. Villain calls. The turn is the ace of spades. Villain checks. Kind of an interesting board now. There's 210 in the pot. You've got 1900 left behind. Hard to find a bunch of bluffs now in your turn betting range. On the ace, considering that, like, you know, if you have ace jack or ace king or some other just like ace 8, ace 7, ace 6, ace 5 offsuit with the ace of hearts, you now turn a pair.
it's hard to have like an offsuit jack right now.
Yeah.
All my jack X is going to be like suited stuff, but that would probably make up the biggest portion of my bluffing range, is like a hand like jack 7 suited maybe.
Yeah, but we're really struggling to find enough bluffs. I would imagine that like preferred sizing is probably something small.
Oh, really? I had the thought that you had on the flop here, where there's just like a lot of hands that are going to be like, I kind of had that thought one street too late, I think, where there's just a lot of hands that aren't going to check raise the flop that are going to be relatively inflexible on the turn. Like, I thought queen jack is just going to call like 70, maybe even like pot quite frequently.
I'd be worried about losing queen jack now.
Yeah, I guess
with a
you
big
can't-
bet on the turn.
Yeah, but still, there's all those like 2-pair hands, maybe even 2-pair hands, maybe even straights. So I thought that there wasn't like a shortage of hands that I could target with a really big bet. Pair plus draw.
Yeah. Okay. Well, go for it then, Daddy-O. I do think you're struggling to find like low
I
equity
mean, that's a
hands
good point.
and-
That like, I I really wasn't even thinking so much about like that. I don't have tons of bluffs anymore. I was just thinking like, oh god, he has so many strong hands still. Like I have to.
Yeah, so like exploitively sizing up, which, you know, is reasonable here, especially when like I don't think villains are going to fold two pair. I don't think they're going to think too deeply about like the hands that beat them.
Right.
And yeah, so all right, you just decide to overbet the turn, which yeah, is quite big, quite different than 30%.
Yeah. Kind of the opposite.
You really have no bottom end to your polarization here, I guess. King X, King 8 with the King
Turning
of Hearts.
ace into a bluff,
I don't
just try
even
to fold
know.
out two pair, obviously.
Yeah, like you don't really have a bottom end to your polarization, but let's see if villain recognizes. Who knows? They decide to call regardless.
Called pretty quickly. Didn't think much about it.
Yeah. And the river.
My hand
is
gets
the
better.
Jack of Hearts. You river a straight flush.
But did I
Queen,
want to?
Jack, 10, 9 of hearts. You have ace 8, and the most common flush they would have would be the king. What a very strange river.
I stared at the middle of the table for like 10 seconds after he checked, and I was like, I think I'm gonna check back a straight flush on the river.
So there's 7-10 in the pot, 1,600 behind. Oh my god, are you really going to check a straight flush behind on the river? Couldn't you bet like a third? Couldn't you bet like 200 and fold to a jam?
Try to get called by the 7 of hearts.
I mean, or a straight maybe? No, or two pair or set. Like,
So one thing that I will say is that I felt pretty confident that, while I said the big blind is a decent, looks like a decent reg, seems like he plays well. I would feel very confident saying is that if I bet here and got jammed on, I would be so happy to fold. Like I wouldn't be like, oh man, let me think about this for a second. It'd just be like it'd be a very, very happy fold. But does he ever call with?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, whether they call with enough worse hands or not. I'd probably be willing to see though, willing to put a bet out there and test to whether or not they'll call often enough or not.
You just bet really, really small on the river, like
150 or 200.
Feels too big.
Maybe 100 then, or 150. And maybe you just maybe
$20.
it's not worth it. Maybe it's like not worth the pain of facing the jam and folding a straight flush to the jam. I don't know, John. I can't imagine them like jamming though without the king high flush, just because like there's you could just easily be jamming into a straight flush, right? Like considering like we have the ace of hearts, but if they did have the ace of hearts, I don't even think they would raise the river with the ace of hearts on queen jack 10 9 of hearts, right? Yeah, so I mean, I think you can probably get called by enough worse hands if you bet like 100. And then pretty easily fold. So like, if you wanted to eke out that value, then I think go for it. But if not, I see that side too.
I didn't go for I didn't go for the 100.
So just check behind.
Yeah, I checked back.
Yeah, and villain flopped two pair.
It was really embarrassing because like I checked back and like he has to turn his hand over first, and the dealer's like two pair. Right, I turn over my hand and the dealer looks at my hand and says straight flush, and like 4 people at the table in unison say, "What the fuck?"
I mean, it's not a slam dunk bet by any stretch of the imagination.
Right, but like on first glance, you're like, "Wait a second, the river went check, and he has a straight flush."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm somewhat glad that like 3 people at the table thought this was a ridiculous check back.
Yeah, I mean, this is everybody avoids online poker, all the people, because it's rigged and set up. And look at this setup in live poker. What's the deal here?
Yeah, I was like all ready to stack him on the flop. He had top 2. It was just ready to
These
go.
are the kind of hands you see online, but don't really happen in real life ever.
Stupid live poker improving my hand on the river. Why would they do that?
And for the listener too, by the way, I'm being sarcastic about all the things being rigged. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. It's definitely reasonable to check back, and
I can now confidently say that I've checked back the strongest hand I will ever check back in my life.
Really?
How would you ever check back a hand stronger than the bottom end of a straight flush?
King, queen, jack 10. You could have the 9 of spades.
That's okay. I mean, I just meant in terms of like the category of hand.
Oh, the category, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can get 1 pip stronger.
Yeah,
you can check back 1 pip stronger without jokers. You throw jokers into the mix, and then you got quints, and maybe you can check back a royal sometimes. Who knows? All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Tactical Tuesday. John's out there in the live streams. Beware, if he sits down at your table, he's going to be checking back straight flushes.
Yeah, so just donk the river.
Yeah, and calling over bets on 4-liners. The water's very warm. Look for him at the tables, and have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. We'll catch you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter, join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter at CPG Podcast.